Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Dr. Kenneth Ombongi is the Associate Dean, the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences at the University of Nairobi. Good morning, Dr. Ali.
Morning, morning.
A pleasure having you here on the broadcast.
It's good to have you here, to have me here.
Okay.
Yes.
Professor Kivutha Kibwana is the pioneer governor Makueni County and a professor of law at Daystar University. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Nelson Harvey is the 49th president of the Law Society of Kenya, also joins us this morning here on the broadcast. Good morning, Council.
Morning, Ayub. Asante.
Appreciate it, and many thanks. Shortly, we'll be joined by Dr. Barak Muluka, who is a commentator on politics and governance, as well as communications and leadership consultant. Gentlemen, the events of the past few days have been of historic proportions in so many ways. And first, to begin with you, Council Harvey, this is what Salim Lon, Odinga's longtime spokesperson, who is based in America, wrote, and he said, without Raila Odinga, Kenya will be a radically different country. It's entirely possible that the vacuum he leaves will create mass movement capable of successfully demanding change, or might be even greater mayhem unleashed by our guardians. This is in itself, in many ways, what then informs the new era is it that begins post-Raila?
I must agree, because and this is not the first time I'm saying, I may be wrong, but to a large extent we owe it to Raila Amolo Odinga for the transformative constitution we have. There are many players who participated in that enterprise, but the radical momentum was at all intervals inputted by Raila Amolo Odinga. And you can see in the recent past, even when the Gen Z came out to demand accountability from the government, contrary to our expectation, somebody else saw the propriety of bringing in Raila with a view to calming the youthful population. And he seems to have succeeded in that. And that speaks to two things, therefore. Perhaps with the death of Raila Amolo Odinga, the states may want to be more aggressive in violating the Constitution, in clawing back on the gains that we have made. The converse of it will be there is a possibility that there will arise a generation of many Railas who will want to be defiant, who will demand accountability in the same manner that he demanded. Either way, if you look at it from that perspective, there will be a new dawn. There will be a new dawn, all attributed to what we have so far achieved as a result of the determined effort of Raila Amolo Odinga.
Yeah. Prof, this is so profound, is it, as Council points out, but are there advantages and positives that Odinga leaves behind in creating that energy and political DNA and defiance in the face of oppression that he did? You guys were in the front lines together, the push for multipartyism, the pathway to Katiba 2010. And today, certainly, Kenya is free by many standards because of Katiba and the vast array of independent institutions that were born out of it. Do you foresee possibilities of that, the absence of his omnipresence, now giving the state perhaps some leverage in clawing back on some of the gains that we have made, including a violation of our laws?
I don't necessarily think so, because even when Raila is alive, the young people, very young Kenyans, are able to agitate for the constitution to work, for the country to work, for, the corruption to become something of the past. So I think the seed for maintaining Kenya as a democracy has been sown. And I don't think that, it is easy, even, for example, with the 8 laws that have, been passed and so on and signed. I think one thing that, Raila taught Kenyans was that they have a right to resist whatever is not fair. And even when he himself had, decided to work with the current president, whatever originally he told Kenyans, they continued to do that, particularly young people. But having said that, he occupied a special place because he could get the country to do certain things which nobody else would. And therefore, you can't replace Raila with one person. You can only replace him with many people, several people, in terms of the political leadership. But therefore, in terms of the Constitution, yes, as Xavier said, he played quite a pivotal role in terms of ushering in the Constitution in this country. And that is one of his enduring legacies, including being a foremost defender of devolution. And I think even during Mashujaa Day, the governors were in unison, saying that that was one of the most important things that Raila propagated. So we have to watch to see how will Kenya look like, after Raila. But I don't see immediately anybody coming to replace him, but maybe a group of people could replace him.
Yeah. Daktari, what are the factors that will drive or shape the agenda for the new era that begins after Odinga?
Before I answer you directly, let me just weigh in on what Professor Kibwana is saying about Raila and his influence. Of course, fundamentally, Raila was not your ordinary Kenyan politician. I will, as I did on this forum the other day, describe him as a colossus, a man who determined the direction Kenyan politics took, both by his actions and silence. And we saw it when the young people, went to the streets. Their concern was, why is Raila quiet? If he is quiet, then we can take his place. Now, much more directly to your question, what factors will determine the direction things will take? A number of them that come to mind immediately is, we have seen already a level of divisions within ODM. Yeah. And clearly for the few days as we were preparing to bury this great man, there's a way in which really the leaders and members of ODM were kind of speaking in tongues, if I may use that religious cliche. There was a competition to tell the public what Raila told me. That has come every so often from the mouths of many of the leaders within ODM. So one clear situation that we are going to deal with is how do you deal with the divided ODM? And then from there, there are people who made their political fortunes by actually hanging to the coattails of Raila Odinga. Many of those, in a sense, will stumble. There are those who made their political career by actually bashing Raila, and I'm sure they will scatter. Yeah. There are those who made their political career by shaking the hand, the magical hand of Raila Odinga. They will have to rethink their strategy right now. You know, those and many factors will determine the direction things will take from now. But it's very clear that for the next for the coming days and the coming months, the country will be in some kind of tenterhooks, a bit of tension, the split within ODM. I saw Professor Kanyinga here talking about the radicals and the conservatives within ODM, how that unfold. And of course, the president, Raila had this fascinating role where he sustained some leaders, he made others. I said he's a king who never became, he's a kingmaker who never became king. Those he sustained, you know, there's a way in which, if you look at historically, towards the end of Moi's era, Raila became very instrumental in sustaining him. Kibaki, after the post-election violence, and then we got to the accord and all that. Now coming Uhuru, he had to shake Raila's hand to sustain his administration, and now Ruto. You see, that influence that Raila had in its absence, things are not going to be the same. So that's why I say for the next couple of days, for the coming months, the country will be in some level of tension as we decide which direction to go. And very quickly, Kenya has demonstrated a lot of resilience. It's not going to be easy to replace Raila. But then I could agree with what Professor Kibwana was saying, that because of Kenya's resilience, new Raila-lets will come up. In the 70s, before Raila came to the fore, we had the Martin Shikukus of this world, the Maria Sorones of this world, the Taita Towetis of this world, the George Anyonas of this world, who kept the government of the day very effectively as a group. Raila was able to do it almost single-handedly. We will miss that. But many more Raila-lets will emerge.
Of course, expanding, as you have said, the stabilizing effect he has had on different governments, but different for the current president because of how he pulled back the country from the abyss, given the historic events of 2024. Daktari, good morning.
Morning to you.
Lovely having you in the broadcast.
Thank you.
Asante. Certainly, as Daktari has explained in his submission, the casualties list will be long and will grow long as we go into the elections. But in your view, who bears the biggest brunt?
I thank you once again, and thank you to the fellow panelists and viewers. Once again, I think I'd like to observe that this gentleman was a colossus, as has been described, one of those rare figures in the space of history who shaped his country, but who was also shaped by his country. And as we gravitate forwards, the moment starts coming when we must reflect about offering the country today and in the future a more balanced and accurate picture, because people impact upon the environment, and the environment also impacts upon them, even as we reflect about the possibility that someone could attempt to fit in Raila Odinga's very huge and heavy shoes. We must separate fact from myth, fact from fiction, the man from the legend. Raila Odinga was a great shaper of history, who, as we have said, was shaped by history. To be able to fit in his shoes, you must come with history. And we're going to see a lot of people trying to say that I'm the right one, I can fit in. Indeed, some attempted to say that even before he passed on. Within the opposition spaces, we have had individuals who have said that now that he has removed the revolutionary garb, and he has moved away from the trenches to the velvety environment that is a state house. People saying, I'm now the new Raila Odinga. You can't be that. You must have that historical record, a consistent one where you have stood for certain things. So who are the casualties? And who are the great beneficiaries? Because that must be looked at in both contexts. From the beneficiary perspective, you would see that each time space opens up, those who have lived in the shadows would want to come out. And I do want to believe that we are going to see people who have been ideologically nurtured by Raila Odinga stepping out of the shadows. The way Raila himself stepped out of the shadows only after the demise of his father. Before that, he was just one of the young Turks. Professor Kivuda Kibwana here was one of those young Turks, and indeed one of the people who are at the forefront in the struggle for the new constitution. When Professor Kibwana here, among others, began talking about a new constitution or constitutional review, many in the country did not understand what he was talking about. I remember we in the media going out to ask Kenyans, ordinary Kenyans in the streets, whether they thought that the Constitution of Kenya required a review, because President Moi was saying it did not require any review. There was no constitutional crisis. And I recall a woman at Marikiti asking in Kiswahili, katiba ni nini? Ni matiba? Because they did not understand what was he was talking about. They knew that life was not good, but they could not map it to the institution that we call the Constitution. So Odinga stepped out at that time. Now other younger people are going to step out. We have even seen some of them beginning to agitate when he was alive. And therefore, if we were to talk about the Raila Odinga orphans, for me, foremost are his ideological orphans. People who believe and who have tended to attempt to actualize that which he believed in, certainly for the longest time. There would be those who would believe that in recent times that ball was kind of dropped. We will investigate the factors around the dropping of the ball in the fullness of time. But there are the Sifunas of this world, the Babu Owinos of this world, the Caleb Amisis of this world, who are the people we will be watching as a country, whether they can step out of the shadows and carry on with that engagement. President William Ruto, we have seen also attempting to become a beneficiary, trying to ingratiate himself and insinuate himself within that space, calling himself one of the founders of ODM, and saying that he's going to make sure that ODM behaves in a certain manner. So he would attempt to be a beneficiary. And there would be other leaders in the opposition who would attempt to step into those shoes. But they are big, they are heavy.
Council, it's the quest of socialism that drove Raila's idea, of course, educated in East Germany before the reunification following the collapse of the wall, Berlin Wall. And he believed that government should work for the people. He believed in equity, he believed in justice, constitutionalism, the rule of law, and good governance. I mean, taking over that certainly is a huge responsibility. But do you see that in the current generation to push this country towards the path of prosperity as Katiba envisions?
Yes, and rightfully so, because some of us who were ardent supporters of Raila Amolo Odinga were so affiliated to him fundamentally because of his vehemence in his youth. He stood out as the face of defiance, defiance against injustices. And these are characters associated with socialists. And I think it's Gado who caricatured him yesterday in so many facets. The first beginning with the military fatigues. If the cartoon was in color, it must have been in green olive fatigues. So that is what we knew Raila for. And to that extent, as Dr. Baraka Muluka has said, we see many more of those socialists at the formative stage of the revolution. And they stand out quite clear. Now, at the tail end of his political career, Raila seemed to disappoint many of those who saw him as a revolutionary leader. And I think with hindsight, we could have been wrong in making that conclusion. Why do I say so? Because invariably, Raila has been able to get all settlements that he requires in the advent of all disputed elections. Why has he been able to do that? And I think this is what these other generals who will come and want to succeed Julius Caesar upon his death, as I may create a similarity, will have to achieve. Raila could negotiate only because he had the power to wage war. You can never negotiate if you don't have the power to wage war. Because if you don't have that power, you'll always be dismissed. And we live in a very different environment. We cannot don military fatigues. We cannot carry a Kalashnikov anymore. So what is incumbent upon the people who want to continue the legacy of Raila Amolo Odinga is to pick up where he left. He didn't leave us with the bullet. He left us with the ballot. So they must of necessity see the need for regime change through the ballot. And that can only come through great awareness. Raila Amolo Odinga was so much informed. He was knowledgeable in almost all fields. You understand? And for that reason, therefore, there is urgent need now than ever before for the youthful population to be informed of their rights, to realize that in the struggle for what is good for you, you must also allocate time for what is good for the nation.
Yeah, Daktari and Prof, when we get back from the break, we will expound more on what the Council and Daktari have said, especially the clout he came with into the negotiating table, given, of course, the belief that it was peace by might or through might, and who therefore bears that clout in the current political dispensation, and also what many leaders who had worked with him have also said about the former Raila Odinga, including the Nigerian Babafemi Badejo, who was his autobiographer, and the admission Odinga makes in the book that he had authored about the events of 1982, that is the foiled coup, and the admission he makes to an extent, as Salim Lone had pointed out, and expounding that as we go into the 2027 elections. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. We are back with more after the break. Stay tuned.